I said, close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. In biblical days, they offered livestock, grain. That was a type of currency. Note, if you will, I did not say money. And this is what God is saying for at least 1,000 of you in the building. 1,000 people giving what I'm about to challenge will be $20,000.
They said, but the Lord said, give what you can. He
Right.
didn't put no number on it.
I knew Marvin Sapp was a gospel singer, but I didn't know he was a bank robber too. I didn't know he was a bank robber too. He said, look, I need $40,000.
There's definitely nothing wrong with challenging your church members to give a certain amount, as long as there isn't any manipulation or you're making people feel bad and you're shaming them.
The point is, I don't see why a pastor needs that kind of money.
Welcome back to the Holy Duo.
Welcome
This
back.
is D for Dialogue here, and we got
Hey, you got your man Eddie Ed in the building. Finally, once again.
once again, it's been a long time, but
Long time.
we have a topic for you guys today. And as you saw, the title is called The Church is Robbing You, or Your Church is Robbing You. Big topic. We're talking about tithing today, and we're going to talk about the lies, the misconceptions. We have some funny story times. I mean, these stories are traumatic, and then we have the truth for you guys. All right. But before you continue with this video, check out this other church video that we made up in here, up in this corner here with the little eyes over there, talking about the Trinity. Personally, I think it's one of the best illustrations you're going to find for the Trinity out there. It goes deep, super deep. So grab your tea and listen to that. But before we move forward, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with your buddies. Share this with your church friends. They might be getting deceived also. Okay, so let's jump straight into the video and start talking about these things and lay it out flat for you. Let's go. We got the church, or your church is robbing you. I get it. Heavy title. Yeah, we got to back it up, and we will back it up. All right, we got some crazy stories for you guys. Okay, and obviously some biblical truth to this too.
Yeah, I mean, this right here, we talk about the money thing, tithes, offerings. A lot of people are being manipulated. We even have a video for you guys for us to break down and this video is okay from one church, but there are similarities that are carried over to many different churches. So we're going to show you this one video from the one church, but we understand that we want you to understand, okay, it's going to be variations, but the basic template on what's going on in this church that we're about to show you is going on and happening in different churches in different ways. So when we show you the video, we're not saying every church does this exact thing, but they do a similar thing like this. You know what I mean? Because why I say that is because people love to categorize one bad church mean all churches are bad. So I'm trying to avoid that part by clarifying what I'm trying to point out.
And also, your church might not even actually do this at all, but you might be trapped in the loop of, I have to do this or else something else going to happen, or I have to do this because I have to as a Christian. And so it's either your church doing it or you've been taught it and your church isn't doing it, but you're thinking it for yourself. The lies, the big fatty lies that are told concerning tithing. Okay. Let's pull up the verse. All right, so we're looking specifically at Malachi 3, verse 8 through 10, KJV version. All right, and it reads, and mind you, this is one of the verses that you hear in churches when it comes to tithing and offerings and all of these things. So this is very commonplace. At the heart of the issue, a lot of pastors who are misinformed about tithing and offering, this is the verse that they go to. It says, will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offering. So God is saying, will someone rob God? And God says, but you guys have robbed me You say, where have we robbed you? And God says, in tithes and offerings. And then it says, ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. So God is saying, basically, you guys are robbing my storehouses of food and harvest and everything that I've blessed you with. And because of that, you are cursed unless you bring what is owed to me into my house. You're cursed. But if you do bring it to me, then you're going to be blessed, so blessed that you're not even going to know what to do with your blessings. It's going to be overflowing. Your harvests are going to be great. Your crops are gonna yield many all the blessings back in the day. That and remember, this is regarding Israel, right? This is in the Old Testament. God is speaking directly to them. Context is the Levitical priests. So you have tribes, and you have one tribe that cannot work, that cannot plant, that cannot do business, that cannot have jobs, whatever it may be. They just have to be priests to the Lord. And because of this, God requires all the other tribes to offer or tithe 10% of whatever they yield, whatever they have, to the storehouses for the priests, for this specific tribe, that they may have land, that they may have food, that they may have clothes or whatever they need, because they're not allowed to work. We have to remember that this was specifically for these people who couldn't work. So this, when God says you're robbing me, God is saying you're stealing from these people who cannot work and have a need for this thing. Because remember, God has set up this whole society. So if you're not tithing your whole 10%, not only are you cheating God out of the system that he's created, you're not really cheating God, but you're trying to cheat the system. You're also cheating your fellow neighbor, right? And this is wrong. This, you're living in this society. Mind you, if you don't pay taxes today, they're gonna come for you. If you don't pay your whole taxes, they're coming for you.
They
So
coming out.
it's the same thing. Yeah. And so what preachers will do is they're gonna take this out of context and say, hey, if you're not giving your whole tithe to the church, you're essentially not going to be blessed. You're going to be cursed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we heard extreme, like, growing up in or seeing these type of churches manipulate people in this way. Growing up is very obvious and very familiar, because I've heard um I've heard many different versions of this. They say where some preachers or ministers will say, yeah, even if it's your last $5, or sometimes they'll tell a story, right? They'll tell a story to somebody, yeah, this brother, it's like one of those hero stories where the person came out and God blessed them because they did something extreme, right? And so the extreme thing that they may have done is stories like, yeah, this brother or sister had only $5. She's got 3 kids, and she only had $5, and she gave it to the church. She gave her last, right? It's always about giving or sacrificing something, right? She gave her last, and then the Lord blessed her cars all of a sudden, bam bam boom. Or like these one-off hero stories that they will say during offering time to manipulate the people to give a lot of money, essentially. Go inside your bank account and bring out $1,000. If it's your last 500, trust the Lord will multiply that. So they'll use these outliers of scenarios and tell you that the Lord's going to bless you because you've sacrificed. When the Lord didn't tell us to sacrifice anything in that mean so that he can bless you. And then we're going to get into some verses on how the Lord actually blesses, or what the Lord actually blesses. So stay tuned for that. But that's familiar space that I've seen growing up, within many churches, man, passing through. See a lot of those people talking just like that. Yeah, you know, is this so? Is they're so creative? They're so creative with the
Yeah.
stories and how to get you, how to make your heartstrings. Oh my gosh, you know. Or and they also try to make you feel bad as well.
Yeah.
You know, they try to make you feel bad if you're not giving like this. You ain't really giving for real. You know what I mean? Like you
Hmm.
ain't really, $1, $2. What is that? God don't want your $1, $2, or God can't do nothing with your $1 or $2. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They make you feel like giving $1 to $5 is nothing, you know. And hey, for some people, to them, they're giving what they are wanting to give or cheerfully given to. But anyway, we're gonna get into those verses and dive a little deeper into that.
Okay. One other verse that we have here that you'll generally hear from the Old Testament, these pastors going and talking about. That's in Genesis 14:19 through 21. Okay. And this verse is when Abraham goes to war and he wins. And on his way back, he comes across Melchizedek, who is also a how would you say he's like a reflection of Christ in a way, just because of how Melchizedek is described in the Old Testament. People don't really know when he was born. They don't have accounts of his death. Like he was just this like person who was just there. And the verse reads, and he blessed him and said, blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, who hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. So tithing is a tenth of something. That's what tithe means. It's a tenth of something. So the spoils that Abram won or was able to take in this encounter, he gave a tenth of it to Melchizedek. And people also go to this verse to say it's a good thing to tithe to God because God gives, right? Which is true. But to cause someone to tithe and make them feel bad and make them feel as though it's their duty, whether or not they like it's like an electricity bill. You have to pay your electricity bill, even if you're sad about it. That's the same way they make tithes feel toward people in the church.
So we have Bishop Marvin Sapp. I found this video.
And you have to say his full government name.
Yeah,
Goodness
hey,
gracious.
hey, Marvin Sapp. Everybody know Marvin Sapp, so this is nothing new. But this video is going to show us, how he likes to get down in his church when it comes to tithes and offering, and we're going to see a lot of manipulation here. So if you haven't seen this video, kind of brace yourself because it's going to get raw, and this is what a lot of these type of churches do to get more tithes and offerings, to essentially gain. And when you ask your question, like what do they do with the money, that's when you start figuring out stuff is funny, rhyming on purpose. But let's get into the video.
And Social Dallas did something that was absolutely, unequivocally amazing. Let me tell you what Social Dallas did. Last Sunday, Social Dallas raised $1.9 million on one Sunday. Thank you, sis.
You see, and not to and not to pause it early, but you remember how I was telling you they make this hero story, like, oh, this person is, was on the last thing or whatever, but they gave and all of a sudden, this is a similar like type of thread of that type of, you know, manipulative like story to make people want to give, right? He's using what somebody else did or what some other church did and saying we got to copy that. That's kind of like he's just making a story to give to help people give more. Like Like this is just something to push people to give more. So right now we're seeing that story is he's bringing a comparison. He's making a comparison from someone else or some other church so that they can mimic what they have done. And it's pretty extreme, but let's get to the video.
I'm gonna try that one more time. A new young church full of young people between the ages of 25 to 45 raised $1.9 million on a Sunday. I'm gonna tell you the reason why you can't clap. The reason why some of y'all can't clap is because your faith is not where mine is. 1.9, they've been renting a facility for years, and they decided they needed their own facility. The pastor came to his membership and said, listen, we need to raise a certain amount of money so that we can secure this facility. The membership of the church gathered together, and in one Sunday, after he gave them instructions, told them the day that they needed it, and they were able to raise almost $2 million. Now, the reason why I'm excited about it, because if he can raise $2 million, I should be able to get $150,000 on the first Sunday of the month of May.
Boom. You saw the setup? The setup was, if they can do it, God's going to do it for you. If God did it for them, God's going to do it for you. This particular this particular pitch was, pretty good. Like this sales pitch was pretty nice because the punch felt very light. Because we were at 1.9 million is what the other person or the other church did, right? But then what I want you to do is just give me 150,000. That sounds super light compared to 1.9 million.
It's doable. Yeah,
it's doable, right? It's like, oh,
are you kidding me?
That is not hard at all, right? Compared to 1.9. No. That's feathers. You see, that's a form of manipulation. Is like a sales pitch. Like he's trying to sell you into giving more. So it's a story behind it, and it's gonna be a comparison thing. Oh, they can do this, and the bar of which he's asking for is way lower than what the person or the church did, right? It make you feel like, oh, I can sure enough, reach this goal. So it's just these tricks, and this one right here, I never heard this particular version before. I've heard mainly a singled out person, but either way, it's still kind of the same story. It's like this person did this, God did it for them. Let God do it for us. Let's do something like that, so that God can do what happened to them to us. And that's what they do. They this is the blueprint of how they basically talk people into giving more or giving to what they want them to give.
Yeah. And if we're talking about misconceptions, this is it. This is the glaring misconception that we'll get. So what you're not going to get in the church is a blatant lie. Like they're not going to say, hey, I need $500,000 because I'm just trying to build me a bigger house. If you ever hear that in a church, I think you should, let me not say that, because if someone does it, they might come and get me. I think you should just get up and leave. You should just get up and leave and slam the church door as you walk out of it, because that's a straight lie. This is a little bit harder to perceive if you're not aware of biblical doctrine and what it teaches. So a misconception is a situation viewed in the lens of a lie. So the truth of this situation is, hey, this specific pastor, he needs, what was it, 150K?
150K.
The twist, the misconception is, but look at this church, 1.5 or whatever $million. So now you can easily do 150. The problem is you didn't have to talk about that church at all.
No.
That church, in everything we heard, they might have actually been right in collecting that tithe money for that building. They didn't want to pay any more rent, so they just wanted to buy the building.
Buy it
fine.
all. Yeah.
That makes sense. We
Mhm.
don't even know how they presented it to their people. It's how you
Yeah.
present it to people. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely had a thought, but it left me.
Oh.
Dang it. But yeah, like you said, we don't know how that church even squeezed 1.9 million out of their congregation. We don't know what they did, but
Listen,
they did it.
you know, we doing a second service because we don't have no place to put them. Because if we had some place to put them, trust me, y'all pastor ain't gonna be here at 9 o'clock trying to tell y'all what thus saith the Lord. Because I want to go home when y'all go home. I want to come to church when y'all come to church. Why should I have to work twice and you only get to come in and work once?
Come on now, dog.
What was going on there? We did skip through some of the video, but he was basically saying, yeah, because they do a second service because there's so many people, right? That basically can't fit all in one, like, so the parking lot gets cluttered and everybody can't come on one service, right? So they're saying, hey, we need a second service so that people can come to church, right? Instead of um you know having one service and people can't make it to church, right? Or can't park to come to church, which kind of makes sense, in a way. But mainly you hear about second services because of people's schedule. Second services isn't because people can't fit in the church. That's not typically what you have a second service for. Second service is for people that can't make it in the mornings, or people that can't, or people that don't want to essentially, don't have a way to get to church in the morning, and they can and they can make it at night, or they work in the morning, they don't work at night. Whatever the case may be for them, it's because of people, people's availability, people's convenience, right? It's not about how many parking spaces and people not being limited. That's not a usual case at all. So it sounds like to me, from what I know, of how churches usually do the second services, it sounds like this is like a ploy to get money, and usually second services, a lot of them, that's what they aim for. I'm not saying everybody does it, but a lot of them in these type of churches aim to just get like a second offering, you know. And so just knowing that type of church, second service is nothing but second offering most of the time, when it comes to churches like this. So why are you asking money? Because if the parking lot is full, where else are you going to build for the parking lot? It's already packed up. Like, you can't make it any bigger because it's packed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where's the other parking lot? Where are you going to put that?
Well, he needs the money for that. He needs the money to buy that land so more people can park in the first service.
Are they going to make a parking
You know what I'm
garage?
saying?
Because
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think this guy would say, "Hey, now that we have enough money for one parking lot for every church member to come to church, let's get rid of the second service." I think he would be like, "All right,
oh yeah,
now we need to increase outreach to get more people to come to the second service, because now the second service seats are empty and your pastor needs to be here for the second service, so we need to fill up this guy
yeah.
is the best salesman I've ever heard."
Mm-hmm.
That's what
And,
he is.
and so yeah, it's just there's a lot of let's raise money for this, let's raise money for that. Also within giving tithes and offerings, that's another way they get you to give more. And there are services where they have multiple sessions for giving, give a
Yeah.
regular offering, tithe, and then, oh, let's give toward this project, let's give toward that project. I've experienced that personally as well. But let's get to this next clip that's going to show us, we're going to get into now this particular topic of giving is going to get into the seed, right? Sow a seed. And they get this from the Bible as well. I mean, there's tithing or tithes, that they use from the offering. There's first fruits. That's another common thing for number 2. And then there's seeds. These three are three of the most common talking points when it comes to giving time within a service of these type of churches that push and squeeze people to give. They use seed, first fruits. First fruits is limited because you can only, if you want to push it, you can say first fruits of the month, for those that are pushing the, like trying to be more frequent. Or most of the time it's first fruits of the year. But if you get smart, I guess you could do first fruits of the month, try to like make it, first everything.
Recurring.
Yeah, recurring. You gotta make it recurring for it to flow. But yeah, those are the main three. We're gonna get into him going into the seed. So let's see what he says about giving
This
a
is what I
seed.
feel led of God to challenge a minimum of 50 individuals. I'm always the first. There's 50 of us that the Spirit of the Lord is challenging based upon that which we've heard today to plant a seed of $100. Now listen, I used to think $100 was a whole lot of money, y'all. I used to think $100 was a whole lot of money. Some of y'all gonna spend $100 to go get dinner today. I want us to make sure that we seed into this oil. There's others that are going to give 50, 20, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Not a dollar. Because I teach here, nothing multiplied by 1 gives increase. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times 100 is 100. If you want increase in your life, you got to give God something he can multiply.
Wow. So basically, he said God can't multiply $1. God can multiply everything else but $1. And that's what he says. So God is limited. It's a couple things, man. A couple things here. Now this is a thing that I've seen as well. Growing up, is they'll call on people to first. It's almost like a raffle, or not a raffle, but when you auction, you're auctioning off numbers. I need 10 people to give 1,000. And then from the 1,000 you go to 500. 500 you go to 200, 200, 100. Down the line, you see these type of sowing the seed, and they use seed. Who's gonna give this seed? So they build this thing of like, okay, you're the one that's gonna sow this big seed. This is the biggest seed we're calling on for the night. Who's gonna be one of the ones out of the 10 to sow the big seed? And what I've seen over the years is that you feel good to be one of those people. So now they're now they're working with people's ego, pride, to like, I'm one of the ones that every seed song, I'm the one that do the first, the highest bid, right? So it gives you this kind of thing like, oh yeah, come up with your seed if you want to sow 1,000. So it's like they make these type of seed sowing events not only to get a certain amount of money, but it also makes the person that's giving that in those higher numbers feel good as well. Notice how it's always a certain amount of people. I need 10 people or 50 people. They know what they're doing when they say, oh, I need 50 people to do this. They're doing the math. Like, I'm pretty sure they calculated the numbers on the number call outs of what the giving is and how many people they want to give. He said 50 people with $100. 50 times 100. What's that? 5,000?
Yeah.
5,000 off the rip. And he probably has hundreds of members that goes to that church. So the numbers can get pretty nice into the tens of thousands. You know what I'm saying? Off of that one seed sowing. We ain't even talking about offering and tithes. This is just seed, And so people think, and this is how they get you as well, is that the sower seed, because of the parable of the sower, they multiplied and they manipulate and take that out of context and say, yeah, if you sow a seed, God's gonna multiply it, when actually the people in there worked out their seed or worked out their talent, which is money, and they did things with it. You know what I'm saying? God didn't just magically, oh, you put it under the ground, I'm gonna make it grow. Nah, they used they used what they had, and they used them, the mind to figure out how to multiply it. So it's manipulation. If you don't read, you're gonna suffer. Lord tells us in His Word, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. Like, it's many different ways you can suffer because you don't
Mhm.
know or you don't have knowledge about something. Let's not be stuck on, you know, one thing here. There's a lot of stuff people suffer from. Diet. We can go a whole laundry list. But the point I'm trying to bring out here is that they would take parts to the scripture and try to mold it into the story that they want to tell. Take a seed, God's going to multiply it. They say all these nice words with it that make it sound so well put together. You'll definitely not doubt it's in the Bible. Of how they explain their story. But when you look into it, the way that they put it, Bible don't say nothing about that. It's a whole different story from what they were telling you, versus what the Bible actually says. So um that's another way that they get you with giving these things, is that they tell you they know people want to have more money, or want to, be successful in the financial area. So they're gonna get you to give, thinking that because you give, that's why the increase is coming, because you just give. But there's a lot of scriptures out there that tells us how we're supposed to give, that will actually that God actually blesses, like how we actually give in certain ways that will bless us, rather than giving to a man or giving to a building, expecting, you know, just off of that, you to get wealth. You know what I'm saying? Um, did you have anything that you wanted to? I see.
Yeah, I have many things. Going back previously to when he talked about he would prefer for the pastor to be doing one shift instead of two shifts, because the pastor wants to get there when they get there. He don't want to get there earlier and then leave later when they're getting there for an hour, 2 hours for church. The pastor wants to be in and out. So the pastor wants to do one shift a week,
Uh-huh.
one shift of Sunday service a week instead of two. Mind you, a pastor's sole job is to feed the flock. How many shifts does it take to feed a flock? You know that joke they say, how many
Licks.
blah 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 does it take? You talk about licks. How many people does it take to change a light bulb? Like that kind of joke.
Oh,
Right. Yeah. Oh, hold on. What? Are you
no,
talking about
no.
the two?
Yeah,
Nah. Hold on.
hey,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
yeah,
said
yeah.
how
Hold on.
many, you know. So I thought you was
See,
going over there, man.
and that's the first thing that came to your mind. How many licks does it take to get to the center of the tootsie? Look, man,
Yo, sir.
you gotta
Yo, I thought I
relax.
was catching you. I thought I was catching you in your stride.
Wow,
I
wow.
thought I was catching you in stride, man.
Ay, ay, ay. All right, I'll try to cut that part out. The computer might not let me. But if you're talking about shifts, the pastor, this okay, so now we have to go further back into the New Testament when the church was getting established. You have the apostles who were going from church to church, collecting funds here because this church needs it, and then redistributes it here and there and there and there. I don't really see that going on anymore because there's so many denominations. When you think about it, the church is supposed to be combined in one, but there are many denominations. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
You still have people today calling themselves apostles. Apostle of what church and which Christ? Because for one, there were the apostles who were appointed by Christ, and then they're done with their apostleship. The church has been established. If you call yourself an apostle, for one, you're a liar. For two, if you really believe you're an apostle, how about you begin to go to church, from one church to the other, establishing yourself as an apostle and finding the needs of one church so that you can distribute it to another church, just as the task of what these apostles were doing. Which leads me to my next point. The apostles they worked with their own hands. There was a certain verse that one apostle denied the church's contribution to them because they were like, hey, I'm supposed to be working with my own hands, making my own money on the side. I'm not supposed to be taking your guys' resources for myself, even though you guys really want to. And he turned around and apologized later, because if someone out of the goodness of their heart is giving you something joyfully, I mean, why turn it down? If it's not for ego or pride, why turn it down? These guys are talking about shifts. So they're talking about, I can only be your pastor if you pay me. Not that I desire pastoralship because that's the skill God has given me, but I'm really here to do my shifts. And if you don't pay me the money or put me in a position to where I'm doing one shift, I gotta go. I gotta go find that out of the church that did 1.9 million, guys. I have to, you have to pay me for my shifts. What are you doing? So these guys are completely clowning on the stage. And then, two, you spoke about the parable of the sower. I think I want to touch on that when we talk about the truth. Lack of knowledge. You talk about lack of knowledge. People go through pain for the lack of knowledge. And then that verse also talks about not because they lack the knowledge, but because they oppose the knowledge, which is God. So you have the people who really don't know, and then you have the people, even if they're presented with the truth, they
Yeah,
still don't
they
want to know.
they don't want, yeah, and it's kind of crazy. Like, people really don't want to know the truth about stuff because they want to not be responsible.
Yeah,
That's what it
exactly.
comes down. That's what it comes down to. No, don't tell me. I don't want to be held responsible. That's basically what it is. Because if you want to do better, and if you wanted to, essentially, be in a position where you're doing things, right, you would want to know how to do it right. But if you want to continue to do things wrong because you're comfortable, you don't want to know what the right way is. The comfortable way is what all you want. The right way, nah, I'm good where I'm at. I'm fine. Everything's working. Don't come mess it up by telling me, what is right I'm supposed to do, and now I gotta, change because now I know, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is. Like, there's certain people in Christianity as well that don't want to even know what right things are when it comes to certain topics. They don't
Yeah.
want to be in, they don't want to read it, or they don't want to be informed about it. They want to just go on their merry way. Nah, don't talk about, and I'm getting off topic here, but don't talk about how I'm not supposed to be laying around. Don't talk about how I'm supposed to, what protect my eyes, my ears, whatever. They just want to be like, oh, God's gonna forgive you whatever you do, and that's all they want to know, because now they don't gotta be specific on how they should be going from glory to glory. They want to stay and cruise. They want to mellow out. But we're gonna get back to topic though. That's just, certain people. There's certain people, like you said, that don't know and that don't want to know.
And the ones that don't want to know, they get punished severely because they're actually opposing the truth. And like you were saying earlier, there's some things going on culturally that people just doing it just because they want to. They're comfortable. Honestly, if laying with people outside of marriage wasn't a sin, if adultery wasn't a sin, a lot more people would be Christians. I'm gonna be straight up. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. If adultery and fornication weren't sins, we would have way more Christians in this world, because that's the one thing that people love to do that Christianity says this is a boundary and they
Yeah, the
don't want to
lust,
respect.
lust of the
Yeah.
yeah, that aspect.
All right,
Yeah,
so now we're getting into the story time where we share with you some of the things we've experienced growing up. Some of it very traumatizing. I'm not even gonna lie. Some of it very traumatizing. You're gonna hear these stories, and let us know in the comments if you've experienced things like this. I know people have. My goodness, I can't wait to see the stories. But let us know in the comments what you've experienced and if it changed your mind, if it, if you felt comfortable with it, if you felt uncomfortable with it. So my story has two parts in it. has two lessons in it, okay? So the story goes, I'm in church, typical Sunday. I think this was the first Sunday of the quarter or something like that. And we have to give offerings and tithes, right? Whenever you give tithes, your offering has to accompany the tithes. You can't, why would you separate the two? The church needs your money. So, we had people going up and everyone did their normal offering. People did their normal tithing. We're sitting there, they're singing, they're praising God. And then someone comes out and says it's round two. Round two for what? Like, this isn't a buffet.
Round
Yeah.
two.
Round two.
Fight. Yeah.
And
yeah.
they start the convincing. They start the convincing. God has done much for you. We saw the people come up here, give their testimonies. Come on, let's go. Let's go. They rile people up. They praise and worship for a while. And then one comes up and then more people start to come up. And they did this for, I think, 3 rounds. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, like, no one here drives a really nice, expensive car. You got people going to second and third shift jobs. You have people coming to church from working overnight, probably at a warehouse. Nothing against warehouse workers, but if you're working in the warehouse,
you're putting in work.
It just tells me, yeah, like you have a lot of ground to cover. You have your bills to cover, and your one job isn't paying you enough for you to pay all of your bills and whatnot. So you need another job. These people are hard workers, okay? And you're asking them for multiple rounds of tithes and offerings. And that was my first lesson. It felt really weird, and I felt bad for the people because why are you stripping these people of their money, and how are you helping them gain their money back? Right? That's the thing that, looking back, I'm like, man, the church just takes and takes and takes and takes and takes. If you never fall into calamity or something big happened to you, generally most people don't go to the church and say, hey, I need help. I need like $1,000, $2,000 this month and all that. There's some people that do that, but generally speaking, the average churchgoer does not do that. So that was the first lesson that I saw in that picture. The second thing that I saw in that picture was a sense of pride, a sense of praise. So they do this other thing where if you give a big enough tithe or you offer to pay a certain amount, when you do that, they call you up to the church to come stand in front of the church. And on one Sunday service, I actually saw them tell people, hey, you guys are some of the biggest givers of your tithes and whatnot. You could go ahead and sit with the elders. Like we've especially created seats for you next to the elders on the pulpit. You can go sit next to them, sit behind the pastor, so people can recognize that you're giving this much to the church. And that was another eye opener for me now that I think about it, because what is happening? What's the problem? Like, why are you fishing so much money from the church people who actually need their money? And there's a Bible verse that I'm going to pull up at the end of this to show you guys that they're completely wrong, lying. They're deceiving people about this. You don't need money from the people. You need money from the people to help if a church is struggling, if someone is struggling. It's very specific.
Yeah.
And when you bring those problems to the church, it actually causes the church to want to give. But when you just say, bring your tithes and offerings because this is your monthly bill to the church, that's kind of crazy. But that's my story.
Yeah, and just for anybody that's like, man, are these guys against giving? No, we're not against giving, but we want to point to the direction of giving correctly, and we're not against giving to the church as well, but we got to give appropriately, and we can't be strong armed into giving, or can't have mentality of just giving because that's what you just do. You got to understand what giving is and how to do that properly. But we're going to get into the verses about giving too. But on my side, I've seen a lot of different things. Over the years growing up in the church. But I remember this particular This particular story that happened. We were at a convocation, and for my black people that go to church and that has been a part of a convocation, you know what I'm talking about. Basically, it's just where a period of a couple days or so where sister churches, they call them, churches that are connected with each other, they will gather together, and they would have uh, a line of services. For example, let's say they're doing a 3-day thing, so they'll have a convocation service for the next 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, let's just say. So there'll be a service every night and maybe something in the afternoons or the mornings for those gatherings, but they'll have a service every night, that is like a regular church service. And so all the sister churches would gather together, and it'd be like a big family reunion for the year, right? So it's like a family reunion of sister churches, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
at this particular convocation, I was with the homie Willie, WSP. We were there. We were at the convocation together, and this convocation was held in our hometown. So all we had to do was drive there, and then drive back when it was over. It got to the point of the service where it was offering time, and usually,
Blessing time.
yeah, blessing giving, giving time, right? And
Mhm.
and usually, we know what comes with the giving time because we both grew up in church and seeing these things, when we go visit churches. So we knew what time it was. We knew they were gonna say, like, it was always some kind of story. It always took long to get to the giving part. Like, okay, they'll be like, okay, it's time for tithes and offering, but then they'll always have to do this like almost mini sermon when right before they call people up to give, and we knew it was coming, because we've been through so many times. So we finally get past the story that they, had, ready for us, a second little, mini sermon. They get to the part where we're now about to get up and give the money. And this was back in like maybe 2013, 14, maybe, 14, 14, 13, 12, around there. And technology isn't advanced now as it was back then. And we had certain capabilities on how to give. So you had your collection plate where you do the dollars and things of that nature. Or you had your checks. Checks were a good thing. But at this stage, we had gone into like a new space. So the person that was talking said, okay, now if you want to give it in cash, we got the collection plates coming around, envelopes are coming. So if you want to give it that way, checks, whatever. Or don't worry, if you don't have cash. Now this is where it took me by surprise, because this is the first time I ever seen what I'm about to tell you, or heard what I'm about to tell you in actual service. And I was with the homie Willie, so we were sitting right next to each other when this thing was going on. The guy said, if you don't have cash, don't worry. We got a card swiper. You can slide it, swipe it, slide it or swipe it. That's what he said. Slide it or swipe it. When I heard slide it or swipe it, I was so surprised on how enthusiastic the person, said that line. It's like,
Yeah, he's not even getting a cut. What is he happy about?
he was so, and the way that he said it was like, you would have thought it was a kid with a Happy Meal. Like, slide it or swipe it. Like, the combination of that was crazy. I looked over to Willie, and man, the look he had on his face, I couldn't help it but just laugh because, just the moment, and just how he was looking in the moment. I was laughing so doggone hard. But hey, any way they can get it, they're gonna get it. So now, not only do they take cash and checks, but they're gonna get your cards too. Credit cards are available for swiping now. So there's a whole nother level of them receiving funds. So from then, I knew like, oh yeah, it's real now. It don't matter. Now, in today's day, you not only have card swipers, but let's forget all that. If you don't got your wallet, you know what everybody has? They have their phones.
You
We
got
got a
Cash
QR
App.
code right here, right behind us. If you need to give
Yeah,
online,
that was in the video.
yeah, that was in the video. QR codes are available now. So you can't make no excuses, no excuse. They covered all corners. Next is gonna be the virtual holograms next. So they're gonna get it. Any way you can give, they're gonna get it. But like I said, we're not against giving, but when you just look at certain ways that people are being manipulated, we're against that. The Bible tells us a lot of things about giving, which we're gonna get into real soon. But that's pretty much one of the experiences I had that rubbed me, a little bit the wrong way, only because of just knowing something was off and said something was wrong by how they were setting us up, to give. But it's nothing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sliding and swiping, but just how it came about, something was not good about. There is a passage that I've heard being manipulated, for people to give their last. I've heard ministers try to tell people to give what the last that's in their bank and or the last that they had in their pocket, because the Lord is going to bless that. The Lord's going to bless that sacrifice. And here's a passage, or here's the passage that I heard manipulated several times. It's coming from First Kings 17, 7 through 16. It says, some time later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, go at once to Zapharfath, or Zarphath, my bad, in the region of Sidon, and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarphath. When he came out to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so that I may have to drink? As she was going to get it, he called, and bring me please a piece of bread. He was hungry. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home to make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Right? Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as I said. Or go on, go home and do as you have said. Because, that was their last. So when she said that we may eat and die, like that's all they had. So after that, they're going to die. Right? Because there's nothing else to eat. But he said in verse 13, Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says, the jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not be run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. She went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. So we see here that the lady made her last for her and her son and Elijah, and she was like, hey, I really don't have much. This is all I have. But she went and made it anyway, because Elijah's a prophet and the Lord sent him there for a purpose. And she blessed the man of God who was sojourning with nothing, because a lot of these prophets will go places with no like preparation, as you would think. Like, this is long journeys. Like, they relied on hospitality. A lot of these prophets. So God sent him there because God knew that she was there, and God sent him to a place where he can get something to eat and drink. But lady didn't have much. She only had a little bit. She had her last, but she gave her last to help the man of God because that was God ordained. You know what I'm saying? And it was blessed because she ultimately gave to the Lord, right? For helping the man of God is going to get the word forth and perceive what the Lord told him to do. So by that means, the Lord said, "Hey, it's not going to run dry. You know, you're not going to run out. It's going to keep flowing." And she did what she did, and she was blessed. But they were used. The lady gave her last to mean that, oh, give your last money, give what's in your pocket, and the Lord will bless it. When we look at the story, who are we even giving to? You know what I'm saying? And is what was that God ordained for you to give your last in that moment? Did God tell you to give your last, or is somebody telling you that to manipulate you? Because of a clear story we have here used and being twisted so that people who are actually struggling and think because they will give their last that this is going to happen when God didn't tell you to do that. This is the difference between God telling you to give your last than somebody just using what God told somebody else to tell you to do that and thinking that it's going to work out for you when God didn't, instruct that person, to do that himself. So they use this story to get people to give their last or to motivate people. If you sacrifice, God's going to bless it. When this was particular and specific to this person that God was using for the purposes that he had them to go out and do,
Yeah.
So it was taken out of context,
Yeah.
basically.
Yes. And this just reminded me of the other verse. And this is the New Testament verse that they also go off of, which is Mark 12, verse 41 and 43. Let's say 37 all the way to 44. I'm not going to read all of it, but you guys will get the gist of it. So it goes, David therefore himself calleth him Lord, and whence is he then his son? And the common people heard him gladly. All right, let's start at 38. And he said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes, which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplaces, and the chief seats in the synagogues and the uppermost rooms at feasts. So he's talking about the people high up in the church, the people who have status in the church, the people who kind of call the shots in the religious context. And he says, these chiefs that Christ is talking about, he said, which devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers, these shall receive greater damnation.
Dang.
And Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. So rich people put in a lot of money. And normal people put in normal money. And he said, and there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. So 2 mites, yeah, 2 mites, which make a farthing, is basically like, as we read in the other version, it's like 2 cents. It's nothing. She's poor and she's a widow, right?
Yeah,
Widows
she's
already have
struggling.
a heart. Yes.
Yeah, she's struggling. So.
I mean, like you might as well call her a homeless person at this point with how bad she's struggling.
How'd she get those 2
And
mites?
her last, that was her last. Right. And Christ said, and he called unto him 43, and he called unto him his disciples and said to them, verily I say unto you that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living. Oh my goodness. So he said, what this lady put in, these 2 cents, are more than these rich people put in there, right? mind you, he already said that these rich people, they basically go in and plunder the house of widows. They trick widows into giving to the church. And this this verse that we're gonna reveal to you in the truth will tell you the direct opposite of what these high-seated men, what they did to houses, right? So I mean, we're talking about the widow, and we just heard the story that Eddie showed us in the Old Testament about the widow who had her last bits. And God
Mhm.
specifically sent this prophet to this widow so that she would be blessed and her house would be able to have something to eat, because God specifically takes care of the widows. The widows are one of the people that God specifically puts his eye on to
Mhm.
protect and to provide for.
Yep.
And this is the very person that these high-seated men are targeting, not caring, right? They could have been like, hey, don't put your money in there. Don't worry about it. We got you. We see that you're struggling. The fact that there's a poor widow struggling in your church, for one, is a problem, dude. Why? She's poor and she's a widow. Take care of her. But instead, you guys putting in all your money, see this widow come and put her last 2 bits in, the bits that she has to live on. She's basically going to go home and die, right? And these men are, as Christ's word, they're devouring these houses filled with these kind of people. So it's a big deal to have people give to you that should not really be giving, because if they give, what money are they going to have to live on? And we come to a crossroads with certain Christians that say Christianity is not about money. Well, it is in this scenario, meaning that money is something that we're supposed to be thinking about as Christians. You don't just throw your money away and then God says, you know what? I see your heart. I'll provide for you, even though you have a responsibility as adult to provide for your household and make sure your family's fine. You're going to give it to the church. It's not going to God. It's not
Mhm.
going to God. So
I got a nice verse. You ready to go to the truths, or?
let's do it. It's been long enough.
All right. So here's a verse. This verse right here is going to specifically um give us insight on why giving to the rich, or just giving to a rich man, doesn't make you, the person that's giving, any richer. For
Mm,
example, if you're giving to a church expecting to get rich back, or expecting God to, somehow bless you back, like that's definitely not going to work out. Okay, so we're in Proverbs 22 verse 16. It says, oppressing the poor to enrich oneself, and giving to the rich both lead only
ay,
to
ay, ay.
poverty. You heard what he
Mm,
said?
mm,
Oppressing the poor to enrich yourself, and giving to the rich both lead only to poverty. What in the world did we just read, or did D just read in X, Y, and Z?
mm-hmm,
You know what I'm saying? It's
mm-hmm,
right there. Giving to the rich and oppressing the poor is not going to make you rich.
mm,
It's only going to lead to poverty. And people might say, well, I know
mm-hmm,
people that has done that. Well, it's going to shut off. The faucet is coming to a close. Like,
hmm,
the Bible talks about how people get rich off of scamming. That's a sinking gig. Like, the Bible
mm,
talks about, it's gonna dry up.
mm-hmm.
It's not gonna last. It is not going to last. But we see here in Proverbs 22, oppressing the poor to enrich oneself, and giving to the rich. All those churches, all those mega churches you give into, all those guys you think is gonna somehow make you get rich, the Bible says both lead only to poverty. Don't get it twisted. Both of them
Yep.
are
You
gonna be
will
led.
be poor if you keep giving to your mega. You will be poor.
Yeah,
God
all
isn't
that
coming
money,
to save you, homie.
it's not gonna multiply in your bank. All them
No.
lines they're throwing at you, that's not real. The Bible don't talk about that. The Bible, why would the Bible say this, but then that will be true? Huh? The Bible doesn't
Bible
contradict
doesn't.
itself.
That's
It's
exactly what
it's
I was gonna
not
say.
it's not gonna contradict itself. So do not be deceived. That's why you got to get in the world for yourself and understand these things, because That's why people suffer for lack of knowledge, because they heard
Mm.
somebody tell them something nice and sweet that sounds very nice, but the Bible don't talk about it, and those words that they're telling them are empty. It's not gonna multiply. You're not gonna get wealthy by doing any of what they're saying that goes against the word. So
Mm.
that's one verse.
If that hit home for somebody, please put it in the comments. Please put it in the comments. If that Bible verse changed your perspective on tithing and offering because you're being told you have to or you should, just put it in the comments.
Yeah, and one thing about giving in general that we should be doing, we should be giving not to expect to receive. The Bible tells us about that, whether you give to a church or to somebody. Like, don't give to somebody and expect to receive. That's not the type of posture we're supposed to be in. The Lord wants us to be in a posture of giving freely, and the Lord wants us to give without pressure and
Mm.
enjoy what we're giving. There's some other thing that I wanted to say, but it just left my mind as I was talking. Dang it.
I want to jump in here real quick.
Yeah.
Very controversial. I'm going to say it again. Very controversial. This is why I do not believe in gifts at all. Even birthday gifts. I don't believe in them.
Oh, gee.
I don't believe in them. Yeah. I don't believe that you should be expecting anything on your birthday. One, because, well, two things really. The world has made you to believe that you, on your birthday, you're supposed to be receiving a gift, as though you're some kind of savior to the world, that we're paying homage to you on your birthday. Millions of other people have your birthday in this world. Relax. It's not that serious. And two, what is the definition of a gift? The definition of a gift generally is something that is not to be expected. If you expect something to happen, that's an outcome. That's not a gift, right? So a gift is supposed to be given unearned. You saying that it's my birthday, where is my gift? What? Like, are you special? You're special, but you're not special that you request something that should be given freely. If a gift is supposed to be required every birthday, then I guess the gift of salvation was required to be given to us by God, because God always, like, we've always requested the gift of salvation. So it's due to us. It's our right to have the gift of salvation. Not really. A gift is, oh my goodness, you thought about me on this occasion. I was not expecting it at all. Thank you. Like, I don't deserve this. I didn't ask for this. You just thought about it and gave it. That's a gift. So because of that, I don't believe in birthday gifts. I don't believe in Christmas gifts. I don't believe in Mother's Day gifts. If I'm going to do it for you, it'll be out of the blue. You're not expecting it. That's a gift. Let's move forward.
All right. So that was one verse. We got another verse on what are the truths on giving, right? We want to know ways to give that pleases the Lord and that's given properly. And we know at this point that taking care of widows or helping the widows and the poor is very important. But let's get into some specific verse examples that give us those those readings. So we're actually still in Proverbs 22 here, but verse 9, it says in verse 9 here, a generous person will be blessed, for he shares his food with the poor. Notice how giving again, to the poor. A generous person will be blessed. It didn't say a generous person might be blessed. It said a generous person will be blessed. So there's blessing in giving to the poor, right? That's another example. We're gonna go to another Proverbs verse here, and that's in Proverbs 28. Look at another example. Proverbs 28 verse 27 here tells us here, the one who gives to the poor will not be in need, but the one who turns his eye away will receive many curses. So that's another example of how we should give to the Lord by giving to the poor.
Mm.
And don't get it twisted. There's a verse that talk about how people have rejected or turn their eye away from the Lord, or it's a verse that talks about how basically it's like a back and forth, right? When the Lord said, in that day you will say, how we rejected you, or how we persecuted you. He says, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was, cold, you didn't. So how is that possible? Well, through the people that you have turned a blind eye to, those that were created in God, in the Lord's image, you've done that to them. You've done that to him. That's what he's saying.
Right.
So helping these people in need, you're directly doing that toward the
Pleasing
Lord.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're pleasing God because because that's what he blesses. And so it says here, the one who gives to the poor will not be in need, but the one who turns his eyes away, will receive many curses. You turn
Mm.
your eye away from pleasing the Lord. You turn your eye away from helping the people that the Lord has instructed us to help.
Mhm.
You're directly doing that against the Lord. And then we go to Proverbs 11. Let's go to Proverbs 11. We're going to kind of like fast, rapid, you know, shoot these ones out, because they're nice and short, but straight to the point, you know.
Mm.
Proverbs 11:24. One person gives freely, and this is how you give, right? One person gives freely, yet gains more. Another person withholds what is right, only to become poor. So how you withholding
Mm.
what is right? Turning the blind eye to the poor, not helping those in need. Another withhold what is right. What is right? Helping people that are in need, and only
Yeah.
to become poor because you
Mm.
haven't helped the people that the Lord instructs us to help. You've turned an eye. You purposely saw that they were in need and said, no, you're not going to help them.
Hey, and real quick, there's some people who are hearing us read these verses and they're like, yeah, like I'm expecting like multiplication in my money. If you think God is in the business of just like putting money in your bank account, I think you're sorely taught. Like you've been taught so wrong. But like God gave us the ability to make money. So why would he give you money? Like that, you know what I'm saying? God gives us many opportunities. So in giving, maybe your opportunities for making more money might be presented, but for sure what you're gaining is selflessness. What you're losing is self-righteousness. So you're gaining selflessness, you're gaining your desire and your capacity to care for people. You're being empathetic toward a certain people. Those are gains. Those are good things. You're gaining knowledge and understanding in seeing these people and understanding how they need the help, why they need the help. You're connecting with people. These are all good things, but people mainly think about material things, which is way off. I think that's way off. God may give you opportunity to make more money, but he sure isn't going to put the money in your pocket like the apostles when they were walking into the gates of the city and there was a leper and the leper said, "Hey, do you have any money for me?" And they said, "We actually don't have money for you, but we do have this gift for you. Get up and walk in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ." And he got up and he walked. What is he going to go do next? He's going to go figure out a way to make money for himself, right? God didn't just put money into his pocket. He gave him the capacity to provide for himself. If he has a family, hooray. The family gets to eat now too. All right.
Yeah, and just so there might be some people. Oh, you're kind of like adding stuff or whatever. Let's get into another clear verse that tells us why how to properly give and give into a particular type of people. What the Lord does to that. I'm adding things to the word, right? Okay, let's read this. Let's see what this verse says here. We're in Proverbs 19, verse 17. It says, kindness to the poor is a loan to the Lord, and he will reward the lender. What does that say?
Right.
Kindness equals kindness to the poor is a loan to the Lord, and he will reward, he will give a reward to the lender. Now, am I making this up? I'm reading exactly. It's saying what it says. There's nothing to manipulate here or to dissect. It's straightforward. Isn't it
Hmm.
straightforward?
It sure is. It sounds like
Straightforward.
if it almost sounds like virtue equals blessings, right? People think if I give the poor money, then the Lord will bless me. But it said kindness. You don't always have to give money to homeless people. It's kindness.
Yeah, give them
Out of
what
your
they
heart,
need.
give them what they need.
It's
Exactly.
not really about money. It's about helping them. Because okay, we're gonna go to. Oh, okay, that kind of leads me into you know, some other stuff. You know how it talks
Hey,
about.
go ahead. Go ahead. I have some.
It's
I
just
have a
how it
question.
talks about giving to the person, like the brother. Give the brother what he needs for his body, and don't just send him off with a prayer, but give him what
With
he
a
actually
prayer.
needs. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we're giving the person what they need. That's the point. Helping them what they need, and not just giving them money. It's not about money. It's about letting having people's needs met, helping people's
Hmm.
needs be met. That's the point. You know, I'm hungry. I need food. I'm thirsty. I need water. You know, stuff like that. Like I'm cold. I need a coat. You know, like those are the type of givings that you could be doing. It's not only talking about giving money, or it's not
Mm.
even specifically talking about giving money. It's just talking about helping the being kind, like we read, and giving them, you know, loaning things to people, you know, without
Mhm.
expecting back. But yeah. What'd you have?
Have you ever come across a homeless person you tried giving food or something non-monetarily to, and they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
nah, but you got cash though?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, um, I actually last year somebody this and I didn't even go up to the person. The person came up to me. Hey, you know, you got some money so I can get something to eat? And I'm like, oh yeah, you want to get some Chipotle right here? I can, you know, go into Chipotle and get it. He said, nah, I'm tired of Chipotle. I was like, okay. I was like, okay.
How can you be tired of Chipotle? How often are you eating Chipotle?
Hey man, person straight up told me I'm tired of Chipotle. You know what else? Well, not even what else, but basically the person wanted me to give them the money. They didn't really want to get. I don't think they really wanted to get anything to eat per se, or maybe they did. They probably just didn't want Chipotle. But some people, I say that to say some people try to make you give them money so that they can get other things that they shouldn't be getting for themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
I've ran into many people that ask for money in
Hmm.
particular, and we know that they're not going to get anything good with it. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So yeah, let's provide people with what they need, so that we can be in pleasing sight to the Lord. You know, helping
Mm.
people out. So let's go to the New Testament a little bit. Oh, this is Old Testament. What about New Testament? Okay, let's get a little bit of New Testament action. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, 6-8. Remember this: the person who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and the person who sows generously will also reap generously. Each person should do as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or out of necessity.
Mm.
For God loves a cheerful giver, and
Mm.
God is able to make every grace overflow to you, so that in every way, always having everything you need, you may excel in every good work. It says excel in
Mm.
every good work. Excel. You see what I'm saying? But do we see what's going on here? It says not giving reluctantly and out of necessity. And what do we see? A lot of the 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 people that try to do these type of offers and seeds, they try to make people uh give but a lot of them are reluctant, so they got to come up with these sales pitches, and they make people have a wrong posture. You know, they guilt you into it. Oh, you know, if you're not giving to the Lord, you're not doing it right. You know, if you're not giving your last, you're not sacrificing. They make up these things.
Mm.
That's not where we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be like, oh shoot, we're not supposed to give under pressure. We're supposed to give freely, you know, without any of this, without necessity. Oh, I need to give to the Lord, or He's not going to bless me. You know, yeah, and it's clear. It says without necessity or being reluctant. I didn't make it up. I didn't make it up, guys. It's also
Yeah.
for those who don't like stuff being in the Old Testament. Hey, it gives us
Yeah, that's crazy.
It gives
That
insight New Testament
that's
too.
like saying I don't need to. If you're 30 years old, that's like saying I don't need to know about your past to know who you are today. I could meet you today, talk to you today, and know exactly who you are. That's
Mhm.
crazy. You have to know the person's history, what they've been through, where they are now, why they're there, and where they intend to go to understand them better. But you can't just ignore the last 29 years and say, nah, I know you right now, so I know exactly who you are. Yeah,
Mhm.
you're in for a world of hurt.
Exactly. And here's the scripture that supports the comments we're making about giving to the brother or sister what they need instead of just so when we talk about giving, it's not just money, but giving people what they need. Here's a
Mhm.
verse that kind of gives us a little insight on how on what that is, right? So let's go to James. We're going to be in James chapter 2, verse 15 and 16, right here. Versus that, right? It says, if a brother or sister is without clothes and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm, and eat well, but you don't give them what the body needs, what good is it?
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
And it ends off in the same way, in the same way, faith, if it doesn't have works, is dead by itself. So we see that, you know, you just can't be out here thinking giving money is the way to help people, but give them what they need, you know,
Yeah.
give them what
Yeah.
they need. Like if they come to you and say, hey, I'm hungry, you know, you can't just give them money and expect them to find food. Maybe they don't have strength to walk. What about that? Or they
Mm.
don't know, or the next food place is not anywhere close. Giving them the money
Mhm.
didn't really help them. Now they gotta walk 10 miles, 5 miles, 2 miles to go get something to eat. They already weak and hungry. That's not really that helpful. Or it's cold outside. Hey, you know, I need a jacket or whatever it is. Like giving them what the body needs is more helpful most of the time than giving somebody money. Or
Yeah.
in this case of the passage, don't tell them that you're gonna pray for them, that the Lord's gonna give them what they just asked you for. When you're able to give them what they need.
Mhm.
But then you turn a blind eye, like the word says, and you look away and be like, yeah, go ask somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we do. But rather respond this way, give them what their body needs, you know, especially if you're able to, you know,
Mhm.
and the Lord looks at that and the Lord sees that. You're lending to the Lord. You're giving a loan to the Lord. The Lord sees that. He said that. He said helping the poor is giving a loan to the Lord, you
Yeah.
know? And not that we ourselves, you know, have something to give to the Lord because he owns everything, but we are helping the needs that other people have, that the Lord you know, looks at and sees the good works, basically showing love to your neighbor. You know, love your neighbor as yourself. That's a reason why the Lord gives us that commandment, and that's loving your neighbor as yourself.
All right.
Mhm.
1 Corinthians 16, verse 1 and 2. It says, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I directed the churches of Galatia, so you also are to do. On the first day of each week of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up as he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come. the apostle is essentially saying, hey, before I get here every week, because I travel a lot, I go to different churches and stuff, to keep things moving, just put all of your collection, your offering monies together. So when I come, I just collect it, do what I have to do, and get out of here. And he's saying specifically, he's saying each of you is to put something aside and store it up, right? So whatever money that you earn for that week, for example, take whatever you're going to save of that money, put it aside and store it up as he may prosper, right? So he's saying the money that you have saved, take it and put it aside that you may do well, so that when he comes to get that money, he doesn't have to spend all of this time. So he's essentially saying, save your money, budget, like put some money aside, think about your finances, do something with your finances, be a good steward in that way, so that you will be prosperous with your money, and that you will also be able to give, so that when he comes, he can take that money and go. Like, he's not saying willy-nilly just like give your money to whomever or whatever. As Eddie had read earlier, you don't give reluctantly. You shouldn't be forced or coerced into giving. You shouldn't be made guilty. But whatever it is that your heart desires to do so joyfully, do it. But also, if you can't or you don't want to, maybe because you have some family stuff going on, you need to save up. Like, you're like, man, if I give this money, like, I'm going to be struggling. I'm not going to be able to do this thing that I need to do. Don't do it. Right. But the caveat to all of this is it is always good to give, because there are always people in need. If you can, do it. If you can't do it joyfully, don't do it, because then it becomes a sin. Can you imagine helping someone is actually a sin? If you don't want to help someone, it's better to not help that person so that you won't sin. I mean, that's such like, that's a bow tie on the whole thing, right? Don't give if you don't want to. If someone is standing on a stage and before he even tells you he needs you to give offering and tithes, he says that church actually gave $1.9 million. You
Guys,
should be able to give more.
the church that I'm about to talk about did phenomenal. We can do at least this. What is that about? Why does that even have to come into the discussion? What does that have to relate to anything?
Yeah.
Huh?
Was that? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, this gives a little bit of insight to how it should be given, the mindset behind it, what it means to give to the Lord. We saw many examples of what it means to give to the Lord. If you don't get it now, go back and just read the verses. Maybe you need to read it a little slower. Maybe you need to, I don't know, but it's pretty clear cut. But hey, you can always go back to the verses and look at it. It's plenty other areas to find this, as well in scripture. So hopefully it helped somebody. Maybe it inspires somebody to have a different perspective, or to look into it deeper.
What if the person never really feels like giving? What is your remedy?
Never really feels like giving, as in like giving to a church or giving to somebody that needs it.
Anyone that needs it. They're just like,
Well, like the Bible tells us, you have turned your eye away from the Lord. So the Lord's going to see that, and you've made an offense toward the Lord. So just know that you have done that, and if you're serious about not doing that, then you need to ask the Lord to help you have a better perspective, or the right perspective.
Yeah. One way that I think you can help yourself fall into the desire and the ability to give is to talk to people. Like, if you go to your church and you're like, man, who needs what in this church? Talk to the pastor. Like, where are the needy people in this church? Can you connect me with one of them? I think I can help them this much. He'll connect you, and the person will tell you their story, or you'll see what they're going through, and you'd be like, dang, like, yeah, maybe I do need to give them. Like, I want to give them something. Like, connect with people. Connect. If you don't feel like giving to anyone, really, then it shows that you're not connecting with people. You're not
Yeah, that
doing
may be a
ministry,
thing. That's a good
you know?
point. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think if you are a real person, hearing these stories and understanding what people are actually facing, if you're if you are a human being, I don't think you'll be able to just sleep at night knowing that
Mm,
these people are in struggle if you're able to help them. Or if you're not, you might try to find somebody that you know that can help them. But I think
yeah.
as a normal human being, you're gonna feel it. So maybe that person might not be around examples of which he can or examples that he can see of people in need. Yeah, so that's a good point.
This video is probably one of the most comprehensive videos regarding tithes and giving and sharing and whatever have you around all of this stuff. If we haven't answered your question, put it in the comments below. We'll comment back. We'll answer your question. If you have any disagreements, do the same. Just remember to comment, like, and share the video with your fellow Christians. I'm sure this will bring up conversations. There are a few controversial things that I said and Mr. Eddie may have said in there, but at the end of the day, this is all to give God the glory. He has provided some, and the others who he has not specifically provided for, it is expected or it is encouraged for those whom he has provided to share and to give to those who do not have, so that he may be given the glory, right? So anything that anyone is going through, just know that God is in control of everything, and he is given that it may be given to, that he may be given the glory and thanks. Um, like I said, share this video. Anything you have to say before we
Hey, do we have any donation location?
Now, why would you try to play me like a fool?
It's your man Eddie Ed,
Yeah, it's dialogue, folks,
and we're only holy.
because he is. And remember, faith don't come expensive.
It's free.
It's free, folks. Peace.